Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This year has been absolutely packed with amazing VR titles and the lineup just keeps getting better. We've got thrilling releases like Alien Rogue Incursion, Hitman World of Assassination, The Haunting Ma Dai Sun. Whether you're into action, horror, or pure immersion, there's something here for every kind of gamer. So let's check out the upcoming VR games and see what's waiting for us next. Releasing on December 5th, Thief VR, Legacy of Shadow drops you straight into a dark, oppressive city built for stealth fans. This one is developed by Maze Theory and published by vrgames, and it's coming to Steam VR, Meta Quest, and PSVR2, so most VR players will be able to get their hands on it. This game is all about living the life of a master thief in a city ruled from the shadows. You play as Magpie, an orphan-turned-street thief surviving under the iron rule of Baron Ulysses Northcrest, whose guards patrol the twisting alleys and rooftop maze of the city. The story kicks off when you stumble onto a legendary artifact tied to an old legacy, pulling you into a bigger conspiracy that sits right at the heart of this steampunk-style world. Instead of just watching cutscenes, you're physically sneaking through the dark, peeking around corners, picking pockets, cracking locks, and using your hands to grab loot and interact with the environment in proper VR fashion. It's classic stealth with a VR twist, like hugging the shadows to avoid patrols, climbing up to rooftops, slipping through windows, and using tools and special arrows to distract, disable, or quietly take down enemies without ever turning it into a straightforward action game. Every mission is set up like a heist, with multiple ways to get in and out. Maybe you sneak past everyone unseen, or you quietly knock guards out and drag them back into the dark so no one finds them. The focus is on planning, patience, and using the environment to your advantage, so it feels like you're really there pulling off a high-stakes robbery rather than just pressing a button to steal. Developers Maze Theory already has a strong history with narrative-heavy VR titles, having worked on games like Infinite Inside, Peaky Blinders: The King's Ransom, and Doctor Who: The Edge of Time. That background in atmosphere, storytelling, and immersive mechanics gives a lot of hope that Thief VR will deliver a polished, story-driven stealth experience worthy of the Thief name, especially for players looking for a deep VR stealth game rather than another quick arcade-style title. Releasing alongside PSVR2 and Meta Quest, Out of Sight VR is already available on Steam and brings a really unique spin to VR horror. You play not as the child directly, but as her teddy bear, seeing the world through his eyes while you try to guide Sophie, the main character, safely through a collapsing, haunted mansion. Sophie is blind and completely dependent on you, so the game uses a rare second-person style. You move and position Teddy to scout ahead, spot threats, and quietly lead her around lurking figures and dangerous areas. Instead of just running from monsters, you're constantly planning routes, watching the shadows, and using careful movement and sound to keep Sophie out of the enemy's line of sight. On top of the tension and scares, there's a strong emotional hook, because every mistake feels like you've failed someone who literally cannot see the danger coming between the perspective-shifting chases, environmental puzzles, and the gradually revealed tragedy behind the mansion and Sophie herself. It aims to be more than a standard jump-scare horror ride. The game is developed by Flat2VR Studios together with The Gang, the same team involved with RoboQuest VR, so there's good reason to expect a polished VR adaptation with smart mechanics and strong atmosphere. Moving on to our next title. Boxing Underdog is a realism-focused VR boxing game that's already available on Meta Quest and listed for PSVR2 with no confirmed release date yet. It focuses on physics-based combat and competitive multiplayer, aiming to feel more like real boxing than an arcade brawler. It's built around physics-based gameplay with detailed blood and body damage, so every punch feels like it really lands. There's full multiplayer with global leaderboards and ranked matches, so if you're competitive, this is where you test your skills. In single-player mode, AI doesn't just stand there to be hit. It demands players to keep their guard up and stay sharp from the start. The opponents feel like they can read your moves, blocking jabs and crosses with varied and adaptive defenses, sometimes even throwing taunts. This makes single-player matches feel like real sparring sessions with unique personalities rather than scripted fights. Unlike other VR boxing games like Creed or Thrill of the Fight, these AI fighters mix up their patterns, requiring players to rely on skill and strategy rather than memorization to win. The game pushes you to master real boxing techniques, set up combos, and slowly develop your own fighting style instead of just swinging wildly. Boxing Underdog offers both local and online multiplayer with global leaderboards and ranked matches, so whether you're bringing a friend into the ring or facing contenders worldwide, this is the place to test your skills. On the Meta Store, it sits around a 4-star rating, but across platforms, impressions are more mixed, so this might be one to watch if you're into serious VR boxing and don't mind a bit of roughness while the devs keep tuning it. It's developed by Monologic Games and published by Damian Boxek Goliczek, So there's a small team in development feel to it that could go either way depending on future updates. Up next is Aces of Thunder, an intense VR dogfighting experience and highly anticipated VR air combat game from Gaijin Entertainment. The studio behind War Thunder planned to release in 2025 on PSVR2 and Steam. It's designed as a high-fidelity flight sim with a big focus on immersion, visuals, and intense dogfights. You will be flying a big lineup of recreated classic aircraft from both world wars, including the American P-51 Mustang and P-63 King Cobra, and even World War legends like the Fokker Doctorai and Spad S-8. The game is built with modern VR tech in mind, including active use of standards like OpenXR, and it supports full multiplayer so you can fight online against other virtual pilots around the world in large-scale aerial battles. The single-player campaign in Aces of Thunder packs intense missions where you're escorting bombers, striking airfields crowded with enemy fighter jets, and even leading assaults on legendary targets like the Yamato battleship. Outside of missions, you can walk around the hangar in VR to inspect your planes up close, which really shows off the graphics and detail that have made this one of the most hyped upcoming VR sims. The developers said that sometime after the release of Aces of Thunder, the game will get a flat screen mode update, allowing PlayStation 5 and PC players without VR headsets to enjoy the game with full realism. Though for the best experience, they still recommend using a VR headset and HOTAS controller. Since this is Gaijin Entertainment, the team developed War Thunder, there's good reason to expect they can deliver a deep, satisfying war game in VR, combining sim-style handling with accessible cinematic dogfights. The release date is not officially announced yet, but according to the developers, the game is expected to launch sometime in 2025. Moving on to our next title, the Obsessive Shadow is already available on Steam and Meta Quest, and it brings a very personal kind of horror to VR. It is developed by solo creator Pablo Heckman and published by PMH Interactive, with a strong focus on atmosphere, tension, and storytelling. In this game you play as Liam, a 9-year-old boy suddenly left alone at home when the power goes out, throwing the entire house into suffocating darkness, armed with nothing but a flashlight. You have to move through hallways, rooms, and corners that used to feel safe, while knowing something is watching you from just out of sight. Your only guidance is your mother's voice over the phone, trying to help you survive the night, but as her instructions become more confusing and the dread builds, you start to question whether following her words is really enough to keep you safe. The whole experience is built around tension rather than jump scare spam, listening for sounds in the dark, checking shadows, making small choices about where to hide or when to move, and trying not to make that one mistake the lurking entity is waiting for. The house slowly turns into a maze of fear as the hours crawl by, forcing you to rely on vigilance, quick thinking, and sheer nerve if you want to make it to morning instead of becoming another victim of the darkness. The Obsessive Shadow has already picked up recognition, winning the Indie Games Expo 2023 Player's Choice Award and the One Voice Awards 2025 for Best Female Voiceover Performance, which really fits a horror game that leans so heavily on a mother's voice as your lifeline. The PSVR2 release date hasn't been announced yet, but with that kind of reception on PC and Quest, it's definitely one to keep on the radar for psychological horror fans. That covers some of the top VR titles coming, but there's still more to watch out for. Titles like Detective VR, Rager, The Bounds, Evil Inside, and Wandering in Space don't have confirmed release dates yet. Drop a comment below to share which PSVR 2 games you're most excited about.
PlayStation